YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. This is going to be probably my final video on the Ranger Academy comic series. It wrapped up its run the other day with issue 12. I decided to kind of save my overall final thoughts for this. It's kind of just a general review and impressions, talking a little bit about how it wrapped up. I used to cover it as they came out, but I was just kind of making a lot of the same points, which largely just amounted to, I found it enjoyable. You know, it wasn't my target audience, but I found it to be pretty decent. And I said over and over again, a point that I'll probably repeat again at the end, I think it could have made a decent animated series. Usually the most interesting things were about the lore and stuff that it did, so I did a couple check-ins when we got reveals about stuff, because one of the major reveals in the series had to do with the Green Ranger powers, as in this series, the Ranger campuses are based off of color, and the Green Ranger campus was kind of deemed evil, which of course we all associate with Green with Evil and all that stuff. It created a lot of questions because, you know, obviously, even though Green with Evil is the most famous story, and probably most casuals associate Green Rangers with that, us fans know that the lion's share of Green Rangers are just normal people. There's like, what, one or two evil Green Rangers? Everyone else is just a regular main team member, so that seemed weird. And that was revealed a while back to just do with the fact that a long time ago Dark Spectre invaded the campus, and it happened to invade a Green Ranger student, and all this chaos happened, and they basically just cut it off out of fear. And honestly, I didn't mind that explanation. Maybe there could have been a better, more interesting explanation, maybe that did tie with like Green Chaos Energy or something, but I'm glad it didn't go too deep into the Tommy connection and all the Green with Evil stuff, and it just kind of wound up being a bit of a coincidence in a way, so I was mostly happy with that. And then of course there was mysteries about Sage's origins, and it turns out that she was the daughter of one of the people that got involved in the incident long ago, and her father was formerly at the academy and had to make a harsh decision and then wound up taking her in. So all those reveals were pretty expected, but as far as my feelings on the series overall, kind of the same as the reviews I did where I was being repetitive. I did find it to be enjoyable for what it was. It was very similar to the Star Wars Adventure comics, if anyone follows those. You know, I'm sure there's other comic publications that do something similar, but those are kind of the comics for the younger readers. They can be kind of hit and miss. They're usually, again, not for my age bracket, so I wasn't expecting that, but they can be surprisingly enjoyable. It kind of reminded me of a midway point between, this is going to be kind of obscure for some people, but the High Republic Adventures comics for Phase 1 and 3, and then Phase 2. The Phase 1 and 3 comics follow particular characters, and they're surprisingly, like, better than I thought. Like, when I started reading them, I didn't think they were going to be awful, but they were much more engaging with the story and characters than I would have thought. Meanwhile, the Phase 2 ones felt a little bit more episodic. This felt kind of right in between, where there was some interesting story and lore to be invested in, but I wasn't exactly hooked all the time, and a lot of the reviews were repetitive because individual issues weren't always super interesting. But I did think this was a nice little comic for younger readers, and I hope it did decently well, that maybe we could get more like this for younger readers. I think that it would be cool to maybe do a sequel to this, or explore other facets of it, or maybe do something sort of similar in a similar style. I think it's kind of valuable to branch out to different demographics, and it's really cool, I think, that they did this, and I found it to be enjoyable enough. I said multiple times during my reviews, I think this could have made a really cool premise for an animated series. I think a lot about its style and story and personality would have fit that really well. Overall, if I'm being honest, I didn't super connect with a lot of the characters. I really only found myself invested really in our main character, Sage, and what was going on with her dad. The only other one that I found to be memorable, I believe, was Tula or Lula. I can't remember which one it was, because oddly enough, one of the main characters in the High Republic Adventures comic is Tula/Lula, but only because they had the storyline about her sister going missing with the Green Ranger campus stuff. But other than that, I just really didn't connect with the characters as a group. Maybe that was just a personal thing, you know, I didn't feel anything with the scenes about their camaraderie at the end. It was cool to see them all come together and morph into a full team. That was another thing. A lot of people were very critical of the suits in this, other than the fact that their mouths moved sometimes, which I found to be very strange. I didn't mind them. They're not my favorite, but I kind of dug them in a way for what they were. My favorite thing about the series, though, if I'm being honest, was the lore behind the academy, the way it worked, where it's effectively this weird academy where they can have visitors or instructors or mentors from all throughout time, which is really interesting. Like, that was probably the thing I was most interested in finding out about, is how that worked, where it took place in the timeline, because obviously we just wrapped up some Dark Spectre stuff in the comic timeline. Dark Spectre was killed off in the show timeline. I'm just curious, like, is this post-Darkest Hour? Is it a different universe? Does it matter? Probably not. you know, that's kind of one thing that's funny is like this is obviously just meant to be a simple, fun story for younger readers, but I was really hungry to learn more about the lore. I think it would have been nice to maybe get a throwaway line or a couple scenes or something that talked more about the history of the Academy, just because I'm not necessarily thinking this breaks canon or anything, or one of those fans like, oh, the source material, the canon, the lore. But I am just curious, like legitimately curious, because I think that was a really cool idea, and I would love to know how that was established and how that all works, where you have Rangers in time and space communicating. I hope we can continue that and get to maybe explore that or get an explanation. Maybe there's an interview somewhere with somebody or somebody answered a question on Twitter, but I would have liked to learn more about that. But regardless, I think that was a really cool idea and a really cool bit of lore. So yeah. Overall, this was an enjoyable little series, not necessarily for my age group, but I do hope that it connected with some younger readers, and I hope that they maybe continue this style, whether it's a follow-up or something else, to sort of expand the fan base into different demographics. So I'd probably give it a solid 3 out of 5. It was honestly fine, had some cool beats, some cool mysteries, but wasn't necessarily for me. But if you guys stuck with Ranger Academy, what did you think of it? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for all my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.